So I'm going to make a Minecraft cake for my son who just turned 5. And I was just baking the sponges off and I thought I might as well record myself making this. I've already done the bottom layer, so it's just going to be like a slab cake. The board is 16 by 20 inches and 40 by 50 centimeters. So that will be the cake. There'll be 2 layers. So that's the first layer. I'll do the second one right now. So I've got the oven preheating at 170 and I've got a wire on the stone so that you don't have the tin directly baking on the stone like this. There'll be a gap in between. Now I've got 2 tins, 2 rectangle tins. I've got silicone paper inside. I'd usually do 4, but I'm missing one. So I'd usually bake 2, 2, 2, 2, but I'm having to do half and half. The tin is 34 centimeters by 24, but I'll link these in the video description. And they're 55 centimeters, or about 50 centimeters high. This is the USA pan. They're pretty cool pans for baking cakes. If I had a bigger mixer, I could have baked the cake in the big tin, but the KitchenAid's not big enough to mix a kilo of flour, the butter and the eggs. So we're going to just split the recipe in 2. The cake's also going to have, I bought this on Amazon and they're cake safe, they're food safe, and that will be on the corner. It's a Minecraft cake. And obviously there'll be another sponge layer. I'm going to do the buttercream, the Swiss meringue. And these are food safe too. I bought these online. But my son, he wants to decorate the cake afterwards. So he'll be putting on all the horses and the Minecraft cow. So he's going to do that part. But yeah, it's quite a few. They're like $20 Australian, and I got quite a few. Yeah, so this is a Victorian sponge. So for every half kilo of, say every 250 grams of South Asian flour, 250 grams of Castor Sugar, and 250 grams of unsalted butter. But for the recipe, we're going to be doing 500 grams because each tin's about 250. So what we're going to do is we're going to cream the butter and the Castor Sugar together. This is 500 grams. Perfect. That's why I like to use the unsalted Western Star. This is Australian because that is already 500 grams. So I don't have to weigh that up. For the Castor Sugar, well, it could be like a few grams under, but it's close enough. Then 500 grams of Castor Sugar. Perfect. And we'll put this in the mixer. And we'll cream this together on medium speed for about 4 minutes. We just cut the butter in half. So I'll mix this on slow first. Let this gradually combine. So 1 minute on here. And then once it's almost combined with the sugar, about 30 seconds. And we'll mix this now on medium speed for 5 minutes. We will just scrape it down. So you see how it's nice and it's getting creamy? But on the bottom, it would need more scraping down. So we just scrape this down just so that all the butter is getting creamed, because this is where we're going to put this is where we're putting the air in mostly, and just getting that nice texture of the cake itself. And I'll finish creaming this for another, it's been about 3 minutes, but I'll cream it for another 2. Right, now it's been 5 minutes. You can see that it's very creamy. We're going to need 500 grams of self-raising flour. This has the baking powder inside it. Yeah, so this is a 1 kilo bag. So I used 500 before, so it's almost perfect. You want to add 440 grams of eggs, of the whole egg. And that's the egg there, 440 grams of eggs. You're going to add this on 1.5 eggs at a time almost, on slow speed. And then we will blend it in on medium. And once it's absorbed all the egg, we'll add a little bit more egg. So that's absorbed in, just bring it back down a bit, put a bit more, and then back up to medium. You don't want to throw all the egg in at once, it will curdle. If it starts to curdle, just add a bit of the flour that we had weighed up. You can add that just a little bit at a time, but you don't really want to do that. So alright, a little bit more egg. And then back up to medium. We will scrape this down about halfway through. You want this to really incorporate the egg properly. Alright, back down to low again. Another egg or so. Got about this much to go. It's going to put a lot of air in the mix, which is what we want as well. I am going to scrape this down now, so we get the sides. So I'll scrape this down about halfway through. Just got to get the sides mostly. Whatever's underneath. Just so that it mixes everything in. We want a nice fluffy sponge, so we want to get this mixing done perfect. Alright, we'll go back to keep adding more egg. Back on low speed. Back on low speed. Back to fluffy again. Be careful, the last part can curdle. So if you feel like it's getting too wet, you can withdraw some of the egg. I'm going to just put this in now, bit by bit, down the side. Don't be afraid to take some egg out if you have to, but don't put the whole lot in. And we'll just mix this now for 30 seconds. And that's it. Now we're going to add the 500 grams of self-raising flour, 2 teaspoons of vanilla essence, so, and And we're gonna add half the milk for now. Make sure everything's at room temperature. All the ingredients need to be at room temperature. You don't want cold eggs or cold milk. You want everything to be the same temperature. Otherwise it won't combine properly. And you don't want to stir this, you're just gonna fold the mixture in, get into the bottom until there's no dry flour. We don't want to knock any air out of this, or as much, try and not get as much air out of this as possible. And we want to keep the air from when we mixed it in. And the eggs. So we're going to keep mixing this until there's no more dry flour. We don't want to knock out the air. So you want to be as gentle as possible. Now I'm going to add the rest of the milk on top. And we're not mixing, we're just folding. A bit like macarons, a bit like when you do the macaronage. Cut through the middle, get the bottom, like so. We're just mixing the dry and the wet together. And that's it. That's about it. So now we're going to put it in the tin. The mixture is about $9.40 per tin. And then the second tin. And put some more on this one. It's about $9.50 per tin actually. That's it, that's the mixture split up. Now we will offset spatula, very gently, just spread this mixture out to each corner of the tin. This will spread in the oven once it heats up, but we want to give it a bit of help. Like so. And then same with this tin, just spread it to the tin sides. When you empty it into the tins, you can kind of like put bit by bit in each corner, which I usually do. And it doesn't have to be perfectly flat, just get enough. So, same with this one. Okay, that's it. I'm going to put it in the oven. And at 170 degrees, both sponges in here for 30 minutes. Don't open the oven while they're baking because they will sink. So in 30 minutes, I pour them out and they will look exactly like this. And there will be the second layer for this cake, and then we'll put the buttercream on. So it's been about 26, 27 minutes, but I'm starting to notice it is getting a bit dark. It's bouncing back. We're going to pull that out. So that's nice. It's got a nice color and it's bouncing. If I went half an hour, it could dry out. These ovens are very powerful, they're very strong. The reason why I like baking on the stone is because you get a constant heat at the bottom. When you do big cakes and normally in a fan force oven, you would have trouble baking in the middle. But because the stone is giving you constant heat underneath the sponge tin, it really cooks evenly. So I have this turbofan oven that I was using for cakes and macarons, and I've literally stopped using it. I use the Vac-Master for everything. So I've been using my turbofan as a prover during, like when it's cold, and just got a heat mat in there because this does everything. If I was doing a lot of bread and a lot of cakes at the same time, then I would have both going, but I will leave this in the tin for 10 minutes because it will break if you try and pour it out. And in 10 minutes, we'll take it out and we'll let it cool. The next stage will be getting the cake ready for the board. and mix in the meringue. So we're going to make a buttercream that's not so sweet, and the best one for that is the Swiss meringue. So I've got 330 grams of egg whites, and I'm going to add 600 grams of sugar, and 600 sugar. So 330 grams of egg white and 600 grams of sugar, because we're going to be using 1 kilo, 500 block each of the unsalted butter. Now I've got about an inch of water. I've got it on a simmer, and I've got the stove on pretty low. We're going to heat this until the sugar has dissolved and hits about 70 degrees. If you don't have a thermometer, once you can't feel the sugar between your fingers, that's when it's dissolved. So we're just going to use the whisk that we're going to use in the mixer anyway. And we just gradually just turn it around a bit. And we just let this heat up. Make sure you don't get too much on the sides. And once this has heated up, we will mix it into meringue, just like macarons. And we will add the butter. You don't want to go over 70. You don't want to cook the egg white. It's the last thing you want to do. You just want to heat the egg white and the sugar so it's dissolved. Put it in the mixer. Make sure the speed's on low. With the whisk attachment, we're going to mix this to stiff peaks. Now this is very hot. And we're going to mix that until it gets to stiff peaks and cools down. So it's been about a few minutes, and you can see it's starting to go a bit white, but we need this to become a meringue. So maybe 8 minutes or so, and the bowl is still a little bit warm. Might turn it up a little bit, and we'll keep mixing that for about another 5 more minutes, and I'll come back when it's gone to soft peaks. So it's starting to thicken up. It's soft now, but we want it to go stiff peaks. We're on speed 6. It's been about 5 minutes since I've added it into the mixer. Added the bowl to the mixer. The mixer bowl is nice and cold, because when we add the butter to here, we don't want the butter to melt. And the butter needs to be soft, finger indentation, but not oily and not too hard. And we'll be using a paddle for that part, but I'll come to that once this goes to stiff peaks. I'm now going to put this up to speed 7 until it gets to stiff peaks. It's been about 7 minutes now. You can hear it starting to make a slapping noise. So it's still too soft. We want that stiff as possible. So this is a soft peak. We want to keep mixing until the meringue is sticking in the air. You'll know when it's ready, because the meringue will start to clump up inside the whisk, and you'll get like a glossy look. So that's a good sign of when it's ready. This buttercream is a lot harder to make than the American style with the icing sugar, but this is not as sweet and it tastes a lot. I love this version, so this is my favorite of the buttercreams. And yeah, nice and stiff. So that's it. We're going to start adding the butter to the mixture. We're going to switch to the paddle attachment now. So we just want to get all the meringue off the whisk. Don't hit the whisk too hard, otherwise you'll break it, but just get as much out. And before we add the butter, just scrape down the sides so that the butter can mix in properly. Let's switch to the paddle. This will also get a lot of the air out of the mixture that we don't really want, the air bubbles and stuff, when we put it on the cake. So we've got the paddle attachment on. So on speed 1, we'll start adding the butter bit by bit. So don't add the next piece of butter until you see the last piece of butter incorporated. Go speed 2, sorry. And we just keep adding butter bit by bit until it's all incorporated. We've got a kilo here, so it's going to take a while. It'll start getting softer. So put your hands in the mixer. Be careful. Make sure the butter's not too hard, but not too soft. And we'll keep doing this until all the butter is incorporated into the meringue. So I've just added the final piece of the 500 gram block. we're going to add 2 tablespoons of vanilla essence. Teaspoons. I'll put the first one in now. And I will continue adding the rest of the butter. And then we'll put the final one at the end. Yep. Now this is the final part. You'll notice it's starting to thicken up a lot more. I'm going to press stop. I'm going to put the last bit of the vanilla essence in. Pinch of salt. And we'll just finish this off on the last few minutes. And we'll just scrape down the sides and mix it for the final 30 seconds. This is nice and fluffy. And we can put this on the cake. Just go through the middle like so. Don't want no air bubbles in this really. And we'll just finish it off on the mixer for another 30 seconds. So the buttercream's all done. We've got quite a lot here. Going to be putting brown inside the cake like mud, and the top will be green. So for the green, I want to take some of this out. And you want to put it in a sealed container, and take about half. It should be enough. Maybe I'll take a bit more out because we've got to fill the center and the outside of the cake. I'm going to put some on the board so the cake will stick to it. Now I'm going to put the sponge Now I have a sugar syrup that I'm going to add to the sponge. I'll put the recipe in the description. But yeah, so this is the sugar syrup. I'll put this on top of the sponge. 50 mils of boiling water and 50 grams of sugar. Mix it together and just let it absorb. So we're going to put that on the cake. Let that soak in while we add the brown to the buttercream. And I'm going to add some brown to the buttercream. I've got the color mill, which is a chocolate, and it's oil based because it will mix in a lot. It mixes in with the meringue. Put that in, and we will just mix that. Go bit by bit until you get the brown that you want. And this is a great chance to get any air out of the mixture. So I want it a lot more brown than this. I'm going to add some more brown. So now we're going to put the first layer on the cake. So spread this out as much as I can now. This is for the middle, for the filling. I'll use a spatula in a minute and come over and spread it out evenly. So want to save some for the edges, so I'll just put a bit more there. All right, I'm going to go to my spatula now, and now we're just going to even through the middle and your edge. So don't worry about the sides, you'll clean up the board later. And we want to sugar syrup the top ones too. So let it sit for about 5 minutes so it can really absorb into the sponge. Like so. I'm going to use this again, it's kind of a good size. Got to be careful, you don't want to break the sponge. And I'm going to go to the edge, like so. Quickly drop it on top. And hopefully it lands, which it did, in a good spot. Alright. Turn this around. Do it with this one as well. And we're going to pray that meat's in the middle. Start from here. And put it it's a bit off. And I'm going to have to push it down. Like so. That's fine. Push it down a bit. Straighten it up. And now with the remaining part of the buttercream, we will do the sides of the cake and a bit of the top.
Oh, I can see.
Now this is just the first coat of the brown. I will go over this again, but what I want to do is we're going to stick this in the fridge to harden up and make it easier to decorate the other layers. You just want to get base on here. Like so. Using a scraper is great for this. So, and just down there.
Yep.
And I'm just going to put this in the fridge. Just to harden up and make the next layers easier to do. So I've mixed some of the fondant for the cubes that we're going to make with the fondant. Now this is the blue one I'm going to use for water. And this was sky blue. And this was the leaf green. This one was the moss. And the brown was the warm brown. Before I put the final layer of brown on that cake for the base, I want to make squares that are brown too to go on the side. And they will be 2.5 centimeters by 2.5 centimeters. The cake's like 5 centimeters high. So I want the square to be at least 2.5. So I'll flatten this out and make as many squares as I can. 2.5 centimeters. It's about that. So, and another 2.5 centimeters. Just about there. And these would just go on the side of the cake. I'm just separating them, making sure they're square, and just putting them on a plate. So when I put the last layer of the cake on, it's still sticky enough to stick. And just, if you have to, straighten them out. Now, I just want to add the remaining buttercream to the side of this cake and then stick these bits on. So get this a bit thicker now. Now we've got the first coat on. Now around the sides, while the buttercream's still semi-wet, just add the squares in random spots. And once that's done, we'll put it in the fridge. And now I'll roll out all the squares for all the colours, and I'll stick them on trays, on my macaron trays, before I put them on the cake. So I'll square them out as much as possible, cut them into squares, and then put them on a tray to dry out a little bit. So just cutting the squares and put them on the tray so they harden up and make it a little bit easier to put on the cake. We'll do the light green and the water. This is the light green, the moss green. And this is the blue. Greens, I'll put these in the fridge to harden up so they're easier to handle. And for the final two colours for the buttercream, we're going to have leaf green. That will be for the grass. And light sky blue. And this will be for the water. Okay, so I'll mix these in. Get some air out. This buttercream's been sitting out for a little bit, but it should be fine. I like to use buttercream when I first mix it. Gotta go a bit more. I wish I had an oil colouring for green. It mixes a lot. You don't have to use as much with the Swiss meringue, just like the brown, but I don't have any. Now I'm going to add just a little bit more vanilla essence into this one, because sometimes when you add too much colour, you could take away the flavour of the buttercream. Alright, so that's a nice green. It will match good with the lighter green of the fondant. And now we'll mix the blue, which will be the water. I'll go light blue. And I'll also add a little bit more vanilla essence to this. Alright, that's it. Now we'll put it on the cake. So we're going to put the grass on now. I've got a piping tube with like a grass piping end on it. And I'll be using that for the edges. But I need to take some of this out first. Probably a bit more. We're going around the whole edge. Now I'm going to put the green grass on. I'm going to be putting grass on the corners, so I don't need to go straight to the edge. So, like I said, I'm going to be putting grass on the edges, and on the edge we will put the grass, like so. Now I'm going to put this Minecraft, while it's wet, in the corner, like so. And this one next to it. So now I'm going to face these towards. So this is going to be the front of the cake now. So now, put the greens here first. I'm going to have a water section too, which I think will be in the corner. I First, I'll just do the green. So when I start it from there, there, and we'll just mix up the colors. We do it random, that way it looks more like Minecraft. And this is the water. Wow, it's supposed to look like water, but
See this?
I decided that that blue line going through the middle was not smart. So I'm going to try and smooth this out.
Smooth it, smoothie, smoothie, smoothie.
Got a few rough spots going on here, but it's fine.
Ollie, I can't see what the cake looks like now. Hey, Ollie, can I see what the cake looks like? Wow. After on that side to do the decoration, you know.
Yeah.
Let's do decoration. Oh, I want to watch you guys. I want to see how the cake goes. Oh la la! Super gorgeous. Here's the dough.
Now you got to put them in the middle.
You
There you go.
Fluff, fluff. He's gonna be stuck. Isn't that funny?
You got to be fast
Why?
so we can put the cake in the fridge.
Thinking. Okay, that's all. Oh,
So Tyler's decorating the cake.
Oh, he's thinking. Oh, he's behind the sink.
Like, you got to be a pastry chef one day, Tyler.